Welcome to another episode of Active Training with Ryan. In these instructional videos, I am going to show you how to enhance your instruction using ActivInspire. This video is about how to change the transparency of objects. Now, when you click on any object in ActivInspire, you're going to get a marquee menu that will appear on top of the object. The fourth icon in the marquee looks like a yellow sun. This marquee can be used to change the transparency of an object so you can see what's laying behind it. Now, in a presentation like this one, it has a nice design to it. But what's the matter with this one is I can't see the picture behind. Allowing the transparency to change so you can see through the object gives the presentation a nice professional look. So I'm going to click on my first object here, and I'm going to change the transparency of the object just a little bit until I see color coming through. When I see color coming through, I'm going to stop at the transparency. So now I can still see part of the dinosaur here, but I still have a place to write on the screen. I'm going to do the same thing to all these shapes here. I'm going to click on the object, change the transparency of each of the objects here, so I start to see what's underneath. Once again, still giving it a nice clean look. I have a place to write, but I can still see the background of the objects here, adding a little bit more flair and character to the presentation. Now in my world, I have to have all the objects exactly the same transparency. So once you change the transparency of one object, in the marquee, if you click on duplicating, which are the two white squares, it duplicates the object and it duplicates the transparency of the shape here. Instead of having to go and change each one, I just change the transparency of one object and I duplicate it around the page. So when I recreate it just to show on this page, all the transparencies of the shapes are exactly the same. Same thing on this presentation, has a nice clean look to it here. But when I change the transparency of it, you see I can see the penguins now as part of the picture here. Again, adding just a nice look to the presentation and giving it a clean. Now on this presentation here, I've set the colors to a solid color, and I want you to read what it says to do. Do you notice anything awkward about the background? Take a good look. But let me change the transparencies of the shapes so you can see what's hidden behind the shapes. Do you see it now? There was a snake hiding behind the shapes there. By setting objects to a solid color, it removes part of the background and it takes away the theme of the lesson. But by changing the transparency, I still have a place to put my objects and write my answers, but I can now see part of the background enhancing the theme or the curriculum itself. Now let's take a look at this presentation. On the page here, I have the picture of an apple. And underneath it, I've got the word apple. So if I want students to check their answers using this method, they click on the picture, and they change the transparency, and you see how it shows what's underneath. Now I can go all the way across and remove the picture, but if I just go halfway here, I can still see the picture and I can see the answer underneath. I want you to try this with yourself. I want you to click on your text tool. I want you to try writing a word of a shape. Then using your shape tool, I want you to draw the shape on top. When you're done, use your select tool, click on your object. Using the transparency bar, I want you to slide it over to reveal what's underneath. I want you to take a moment now and try this yourself. Now, another neat trick about the transparency tool is when you overlay similar objects on top of each other. An example here would be is I can show my students what the inside of a volcano looks like without even having to leave the classroom. I'm going to click on the picture here, and then using the transparency bar, I'm going to show you the picture underneath. And you see that's the inside of a volcano. I can again bring it back, sliding the transparency bar. There's the outside of the volcano. Or I could just leave it in the middle here and say, here's the outside and the inside together. Just giving it a really neat effect then, and just having a great illusion with the layers. What's happening here in this presentation, layer 1 is the background picture. Layer 2 is the overlay, which is the picture that's going to fade away, and it'll show you what's underneath. Same thing with this one here. I've got two pictures of a dinosaur. Let's take a peek here and see what the inside of a dinosaur looks like. I'm going to change the transparency and check it out. There's the inside of a dinosaur. When I bring it back, there's the picture there. Now, this presentation has taught me a lot about using transparencies with objects. I'm going to change the transparency really slowly this time, and I want you to see if you notice anything. Are you starting to notice that the pictures are not exactly the same? But when I did it the first time, you couldn't tell a difference. So in using the transparency slider, I've learned that as long as objects are facing the same direction, and that objects are somewhat similar, it doesn't matter that when you change the transparency, it doesn't matter that they don't have to be identical. So I'm going to put these pictures side by side for just a minute, and I want you to take a look. Now, when I was searching for dinosaurs, they looked somewhat similar. But when I put them together and overlaid them, and then changed the transparency bar, they're not exactly the same. But the illusion of it fading away takes away the factor that they're not the same dinosaur. So what I do when creating this presentation is I put my first object down. When I bring on my second layer, I change the transparency halfway, and I use these marquee dots and pull out the picture until I get the picture somewhat the same. You see, it's just a little puzzle here trying to put it back together. And it doesn't matter that the dinosaurs are the same whatsoever, because the illusion is they're fading away. Same thing with this one. Here's the inside of the Earth. Let's take a peek of what it looks like when I remove the outside of the Earth. There's the inside of the Earth. And then I can bring it back again. Or this one, the one of a pyramid. Let's take a peek what it looks like inside the pyramids. There's the layers of the pyramids, and there's the chambers. So imagine if you're standing outside of the pyramids, looking at them, I can show you exactly where the chambers are if you were standing at the pyramids looking in. I want you to take a moment now. Try putting two pictures off the internet on top of each other, change the transparency, and have it fade into another one. Now that you've had practice changing the transparencies, one of my favorite tricks in the classroom is using pictures in the classroom as a background. In my world of teaching, I've seen many teachers who look at a whiteboard like this. But I like theming up my lessons, and I like adding character to what we're studying or learning about. So I use pictures as part of the background here. So first thing to do is to pull a picture off the internet. So I've got my picture of the wolf here. I'm going to click on my shape tool. I'm going to choose round rectangle. And I always recommend when using this feature, choose white fill color and black border. Now I'm going to draw a shape here, leaving about a ½ inch to a ¼ inch around the sides. And you see here around the sides, I can still see the original color of the presentation. Now using the select tool, I'm going to change the transparency on the marquee very slowly until I see color coming in. That's a good color there. Now this is going to become my interactive whiteboard for the day. So if I have to do note-taking, or if I have to do writing, or I want students to put their answers on the board, I write my answers on this. Think of your own students in your own classrooms. Do you have lessons that your students are studying about? Subjects or themes you use in your classrooms? Or imagine integrating your curriculum together. Try putting a picture on your background and then putting a shape on here. So here was a picture one of my students picked out. They said they wanted to use this as the background for the day. So I clicked on the shape tool, round rectangle, white fill color, black border. I drew from side to side, again leaving about a ½ inch to a ¼ inch around the sides. Then using the transparency toolbar, slowly slide in until I see color. And this became our board for the day. Now I always tell people though, when you use this feature, do this trick using the Promethean board. Because what will happen is that when you change this on the computer, and then you go to your Promethean board, it won't look the same. Your computer screen is going to be a high resolution screen. Your projector is going to be a VGA screen. So, when you do this on a Promethean board, so I'm going to walk over to my Promethean board, and I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to slide this over now on my Promethean board. Now, on my Promethean board, this looks exactly right. But on the computer screen, though, if you take a look at it, you'll notice that the colors are really bleeding through here. That's because the board signal and the computer signal are different strengths. So I'm going to come back to my computer and I'm going to slide this back over. And once again, when I see colors coming through, I'm going to stop. This was a picture that the students were using when we did a study of sea turtles. This is a very beautiful picture here. So again, I'm going to use the shape tool, round rectangle, white fill color, black border. Start at the corner once again, and I'm going to draw this out. Now I could leave it white like this, but I've learned and I've taught teachers that when you change the transparency just a little bit, do you see how it makes the presentation and the background still come through? If the picture is too busy, just change it back a little bit, and you see how it tones the photo down. So these are some fun ways that I like to use the transparency bar in my classroom. I want you to try this on your computer now. Bring in a picture off the internet, put a shape on top of it, and then change the transparency of it so you can start to see color coming through.